Discover the incredible journey of a humble farm boy who transformed his life to build Lamborghini. Jake stood in the golden fields of corn, feeling like a tiny speck against the grandness of the sky. That summer sun was blistering, and sweat dripped down his brow, but his heart was light. He was just a boy from a small town, raised on hard work and simple joys. Barn dances, Sunday church services, and family gatherings filled his world with laughter and warmth. Yet, beneath that comforting surface, something stirred deep inside him, a yearning for something more. Each bumpy ride down the dirt road to school brought whispers of dreams that seemed barely possible. One scorching afternoon, Jake faced cruel laughter when a wealthy classmate taunted him about his ambitions, tauntingly suggesting that a farm boy had no place dreaming beyond plowing fields. The laughter echoed in his mind, sharper than the sting of the wind against his cheeks. As he trudged home, the weight of their expectations pressed down like a heavy dark cloud, leaving him feeling torn between loyalty to his roots and the dreams that danced just out of reach. When a devastating storm rolled through that autumn, it ripped through their crops like a thief in the night. His parents cursed the sky, prayers turning to desperation, as the fields they tended so lovingly lay bruised and broken. Jake's heart raced with an ache he had never known, seeing the strain etched into his parents' faces. In that moment of despair, he made a vow. He would rise above this. A humble farm boy could forge a path beyond the horizon. Then came a breakthrough. One evening, while out in the barn, he found an old engineering textbook buried under dust and memories. The diagrams of machines sparked something within him, and that flicker of passion ignited into a blazing fire. He devoured every page, discovering a world that promised invention and possibility. The thrill of creation filled his mind, leading him to envision a future built from ingenuity. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. His leap to a prestigious engineering school felt like stepping into a different universe. The buildings towered over him, and the hurried students pushed past like ripples in a river. He was just a farm boy fighting to fit in a speck in a sea of those born into privilege. Moments of rejection tumbled around him like the chaotic sounds of a busy marketplace. But deep within, every late-night study session fueled him, proving that grit could outshine doubt. An internship at a high-end auto manufacturer opened a door he had dreamt about almost every night. Designing a Lamborghini excites every corner of his heart. Yet, as the love for his craft blossomed, so did a desire to serve those who felt unseen, like his family and friends back home. With every achievement came the realization that he needed to advocate for the overlooked voices in rural America. Could he blend the success he was chasing with the love embedded in his roots? His family's hug felt warm yet heavy as he returned home for a reunion. Their laughter enveloped him, yet questions loomed large. Would he lose himself in his dreams, or find a way to honor both worlds? As the night sky cloaked the farm, Jake stood at a crossroads, pondering the sacrifices he must make to keep his heart anchored, leaving readers wondering what path he would choose next. The laughter from the family could have filled the whole barn, but it felt like a fragile bubble, floating on the air, ready to burst. Jake sat quietly at the table, his cousins animatedly sharing stories from school, their faces lit up with the joy of the moment. Each story flicked a memory of his own, a childhood wonder that now seemed distant as the glittering buildings of his school came to mind. Amid the comforts of home, Jake felt a pinch of guilt. He wanted to feel wholly present, to immerse himself in the warmth of his family. Yet he couldn't shake off the whispers that drew him back to the future he was carving out. Those dreams burned brighter when he looked into the eyes of his parents. They showed understanding, yet a flicker of worry lingered behind their pride. As the night wore on, stories turned to advice, and his dad shared his own tales of growth. "You know, son," his father said, a hint of nostalgia coloring his voice, The fields might not seem like much, but they teach you resilience. This nature's way showing you how to adapt and keep going. Jake nodded, absorbing every word. He thought of how he could connect his past with his ambitions. A flicker of hope sparked in him, leading to a plan that began to take shape. What if he could revolutionize farming machinery, bringing advanced technology home to help his family and neighbors? If he could pull them into his journey, he wouldn't just chase his own dreams. He could uplift those around him too. The idea filled him with energy. Suddenly, Lamborghini wasn't just about luxury cars. It became a bridge to connect innovation with tradition. He imagined designing machines that could help small farmers, the very backbone of community. The vision felt as vast as the fields surrounding his home. With the sun just beginning to peek over the horizon, Jake slipped outside, breathing in the cool morning air. The dew on the grass glistened like tiny diamonds, vibrant life stirring all around him. He stood facing the east, visualizing every possibility ahead, feeling the call of the land at his feet and the dreams in his heart. But reality hit hard. As he strolled through the familiar paths, recalling childhood memories etched in this very soil, another weight settled on his shoulders. He couldn't do this alone. The industry would demand more than creativity. It needed collaboration and support. His heart sank at the thought of what he might have to sacrifice to strike that balance. One late night, he returned to his laptop, determined to forge both worlds. But the deep-seated fears resurfaced. Could he truly bring change without sounding like a dreamer lost in illusions? The flickering images of his parents' faces flicked through his mind. Would they still believe in him if he failed? That tension was suddenly disrupted by the ping of a message. An invitation to present his design to a panel of experts at a trade show. Excitement and fear tangled within him. He had only a few weeks to prepare. The bright lights of the trade show would shine on dreams that felt so fragile. With the weight of expectation heavy in the silence of the night, he typed furiously, the words rushing from his mind to the screen. The clock ticked ominously behind him. Would he find the voice to lead others? Could he turn ambition into action, stepping solidly from his fears into the spotlight? As the time for his presentation approached, the farm boy felt an inner shift. He wasn't just representing himself anymore. With every keystroke, he was reaching for the dreams of those who believed in him. The question lingered: would the sacrifice lead to the breakthrough he hoped for? Or would it expose the harsh reality of chasing dreams? Jake barely slept that night. Each tick of the clock echoed in his mind like a metronome keeping pace with his rapidly beating heart. He could visualize the trade show. Bright lights, eager faces, and the buzz of excitement wrapping around him. But would he break through that noise? In a daze the next morning, he moved about the farm with an urgency he couldn't quite pin down. He milked the cows, fed the chickens, and worked the fields. But his mind was already split between home and the bright futures he envisioned. Each daily task felt both familiar and foreign, a reminder of roots while pulling him toward branches that reached for the sky. Later that day, as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the yard, he wandered to the old workshop his grandfather had built. It was cluttered with remnants of machinery long forgotten. Yet Jake's heart raced as he imagined each piece repurposed, reimagined for the modern world. Inspiration ignited a flame inside him. He could restore these relics, merging them with new technology. But how? He picked up an old wrench, its handle rough against his palm, and a thought struck him. Maybe this was the very answer he needed. Instead of heading to the trade show with a perfect prototype, what if he showed them the process? What if he invited the audience into his journey? Bringing them along on the ride would not only reveal his passion but also remind them of the grit and determination rooted in their own lives. The vision engulfed him, his fears momentarily forgotten. He could share sketches and the ups and downs of his journey, showing how creativity stemmed from challenge. Each error along the way would be a step toward his dream, not a detour. The next few days unfolded like a whirlwind. Jake started gathering ideas and drafting potential designs late into the nights, his eyes glowing with fervor, while the rest of the world fell into silence around him. His parents watched, a mix of pride and worry in their eyes. They could see the shift. A boy who once hesitated to share his visions was now transforming into a brave dreamer. His cousins rolled over to help one evening, their laughter filling the workshop as they brainstormed and gathered materials. It felt different now. Instead of feeling like burdens, their support was a lifeline. As his family created a wall of sketches, notes, and half-built prototypes, Jake felt their energy fueling his drive. But while he thrived on their encouragement, a shadow of doubt lingered. He knew the path was not paved with certainty. He had witnessed the struggles of neighbors facing harsh seasons and economic downturns. Could he truly make a difference for them? Or would he end up as just another misguided young man chasing fantasies? As the day of the presentation loomed closer, Jake found himself standing at a crossroad. All the hope swirling around him also gathered into a storm cloud of fear. What if they didn't understand him? What if they dismissed his efforts as childish or naive? He took a deep breath, his fingers grazing the wooden counter of the workshop. For once, silence seeped in, quieting the chaos thrumming in his chest. With every passing moment, he realized that this was more than just about him. It was about everyone who had ever believed in the power of dreams. He needed to show them that determination could inspire change, no matter the odds stacked against him. His heart raced as he stared at what lay ahead. Would his authentic voice and shared journey resonate with the crowd? Or would he leave the stage feeling more lost than ever before? As he stared into the fading light of dusk, Jake couldn't help but wonder, was he ready to step into the future? Or was this the beginning of a greater lesson about failure and resilience? The sun rose with a kind of golden hope, creeping through the workshop windows and illuminating Jake's half-finished sketches on the wall. Today was the day he had been counting down to, the day his journey would take a leap into the unknown. Excitement bubbled in his chest like fresh cream rising in the churn, hard to keep still, but ready to flow. He looked around the workshop, feeling a comforting weight of nostalgia settle over him. This was where it all began. The clinks of old metal, the smell of year-old wood, and the echoes of laughter from late-night brainstorming sessions with his cousins, they all danced in his memory. Each object in the room held a story. Each half-built machine was a reminder of what it meant to dream, fail, and try again. Jake grabbed his tools, excitement making his fingers fumble. The heart of the farm thudded outside, a steady reminder of the life he knew and loved. He made a promise to himself. No matter what happened, he wouldn't lose sight of who he was and where he came from. His family's sacrifices and belief in him whispered in his ear. Those echoes shaped his resolve, wrapping around him like a warm blanket. As he loaded everything into his truck, he stole quick glances at the sprawling fields he had roamed as a child. Today, they seemed to stretch endlessly, a vast canvas of dreams waiting to be painted with his ideas. But just as he opened the door and secured his tools, doubt sneaked in again, lurking in the shadows of his mind. What if they didn't see the value in his process? What if all the late nights and early mornings they had spent together would amount to nothing? He pushed the thoughts aside, forcing his foot on the gas pedal. The road unfurled before him, taking him toward the buzzing heart of the trade show. His mind raced faster than the tires on the gravel, rehearsing snippets of his presentation. He saw flashes of faces in the crowd, felt the weight of their expectations. Each one carried a different story, a history of triumphs and heartbreaking losses. Could he capture their attention? Could he share his journey authentically and connect? Arriving at the trade show felt surreal. The venue buzzed with energy, crowds of entrepreneurs exchanging ideas, investors assessing new prospects, and innovators sharing visions. Hesitation crawled back into Jake's heart. Standing in front of the enormous banner displaying his name felt like standing on a cliff's edge, ready to leap. Taking a deep breath, he stepped toward the stage. The lights were bright, the audience a sea of varied expressions, some curious, others skeptical. A knot formed in his stomach as the familiar voice of his high school teacher, who once encouraged him to embrace failure as a learning tool, whispered in his mind. What if this is the moment that defines you, Jake? Do you dare to share your truth? With each heartbeat, the whisper grew stronger. He gripped the edge of the podium, feeling the energy radiating back from the crowd. This wasn't just about him. It was about each person sitting there, clutching their own dreams, waiting for someone to voice the kind of journey that helped them believe in their own. As the first words rolled off his tongue, nervous but eager Jake felt something shift inside him. This was it. The leap, the heart-pounding connection he had yearned for. Would they catch him? Would they see the beauty in the imperfections of his journey? He dared to hope. But just as he began to share the raw truth of each setback, a commotion rippled through the audience. Jake's eyes darted towards the source, his heart dropping. What was happening? With his breath catching in his throat, he could only wonder, was this the moment that would change everything, or would it unravel before his eyes? The noise grew louder, cutting through Jake's nervous recitation. Murmurs transformed into gasps as heads turned toward the back of the auditorium. A figure stood there, flanked by security. It was a tall man with a familiar silhouette. Jake squinted, recognition hitting him like a jolt. It was his old friend, Sam, who had abandoned their small town for the bright lights of the city. "Jake!" Sam shouted, his voice booming, slicing through the tension. The crowd paused, the buzz of conversation dying down. All eyes were now on the stage and the man who had just interrupted. Jake felt heat rise to his cheeks, a mix of anger and disbelief washing over him. This was his time. Sam had left for the city, and Jake had stayed behind, pouring his heart into dreams while Sam chased grandeur. "Why now? Why here? What are you doing?" Jake called out, his voice shaky but more indignant than afraid. "You can't just barge in. Listen," Sam pleaded, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "I'm here because I believe in you, man. You didn't just build machines, you built hope. Don't let them distract you." The crowd shifted, some leaning in, captivated by the drama unfolding. The initial backlash gave way to curiosity. Jake could feel their eyes, questions dancing in their minds. Who was this Sam? What made him so different now? Jake's heart raced. Somewhere in that leap from hesitation to rebirth, he clenched his fists around the podium. Could he bridge the gap between the boy he was and the man he hoped to become? "Yeah, well, you never believed in me before." Jake's voice almost cracked as he fought to keep control. "You were the first to say I'd never amount to anything. People change." Sam shot back, desperation in his eyes. "I realized life isn't just about ambition. It's about connection. You've had it right all along. You just didn't know it yet." The words tumbled around the room, igniting a reaction. Whispers snaked through the crowd like wildfire. Some looked at Jake now with renewed interest. Their minds began drawing lines between shared experiences, failures, and rebirth. Jake stared down at the crowd. He could feel them weighing his journey, the drive to prove himself against the reality of his past. Sam's presence suddenly felt like it shifted the narrative. What if this wasn't just about Jake? What if it was about everyone in the room carrying their own weight of expectations and missed opportunities? Tension pulled at Jake's stomach, exhilaration beginning to drown out the fear. There was something about Sam's honesty that made him see a flicker of possibility. Emotions flowed like the air, thickening with shared vulnerability. His heart pounded harder as he stepped forward, almost instinctively. "You're right, Sam. We all come from somewhere. It's the journey that shapes us." The audience shifted again, this time leaning in more. Hope blossomed in Jake's chest. He didn't have to do this alone. Each setback he faced, every ounce of doubt, wasn't his to carry solo. The crowd had stories, experienced failures and rebirths that matched his own. Then, amidst the newfound energy, he noticed a woman in the front row, her eyes glistening with tears. She was nodding, encouragement lighting her face, reminding him of his family back home. Jake took a deep breath, more grounded now. He didn't just want to be a voice sharing his journey. He wanted to spark something in others. With the crowd's energy surrounding him, he plunged back into his narrative. "We built this, what we dream of together. This meant to inspire, not just me but every one of you." A surge of connection ignited responses in the audience. Some laughed, others clapped, and the woman in the front wiped her tears, smiling back at him. But beneath it all, He felt something shifting, a feeling he couldn't shake. Was sharing this flame just as dangerous? What if it backfired? If he opened that door, would he risk losing the very dreams he sought to inspire? Just as new ideas began firing in his mind, Sam moved closer, those familiar eyes holding intensity. Don't hide from it anymore. Jake, show them everything, even the mess. Especially the mess. Jake's breath hitched, a storm brewing within. Unraveling would mean embracing every fragment of who he was. It was everything he feared to show but knew others needed to see. Could he really take that leap? As he gathered himself, the moment hung in the balance, charged with anticipation. Would he break free from the shackles of fear and share the vulnerable truth? The crowd waited, silent, their breaths bated. Just then, he caught sight of the silhouettes of his family in the back, faces full of pride and love. In their eyes, he saw the trust they placed in him. He felt ready, so he took a step closer to that edge. The truth was waiting, and he was ready to jump. What would he reveal about himself? And how would the audience react when he stepped into the full light of his truth? Jake inhaled deeply, the air thick with unspoken words and emotions vibrating off the crowd. The silence was electric, almost oppressive, as he grappled with the weight of what he was about to unveil. Could he really lay bare his fears, his failures? But even more pressing, would revealing his soul shatter the very dreams he fought to create? All right, Jake finally steadied himself, his voice steadying in the wake of anticipation. Long before I built machines, I built dreams. The murmurs swelled, hinting at surprise, curiosity, and something else, an inviting sense of kinship. He glanced at Sam, whose nod urged him on. With a flicker of determination, Jake continued, the dreams I had were not just within metal and gears. They came from a small farm, where I'd watch my father bring life to the fields. I once thought that was all there was for me, plowing away a life in solitude, just like my father did. He held back a smile at the memory how bright the sun had felt on those long, hot days, yet how heavy the hope had weighed in those moments of doubt. But, he pressed, heart racing, there's a turning point in every story. Mine came when I found a part of me that could defy the odds. I felt a pull toward the unknown, an addiction to the challenge. A growing murmur arose from the crowd, head nodding in recognition. He saw it, the lines of their own lives hardening into something they understood intimately. Jake took a breath, the warmth radiating from the audience pushing him forward. I wanted to trade in my plow for a blueprint. I wanted to carve out something that screamed possibility, not just for me but for everyone stuck in a rut, dreaming in the shadows. The woman in front wiped her tears again, but this time it triggered something in Jake, an urge to unite. Do you know what I learned along the way? That dreams don't come true just by wishing on stars. They come from standing up after every fall. They come from gathering every ounce of courage you have left. His voice resonated, each word carrying the weight of the generations represented in that room. There were nights I doubted I could do it, sleepless nights where all I could hear was the voice of my father saying I'd never be more than a farmer. But within that doubt, I found a fire. He locked eyes with Sam, the pull of their shared history hitting hard. And it wasn't just me. It was all of you. He gestured towards the audience, connecting the dots. Every person who has ever felt the sting of a dream ripped away. Every soul trying to climb out of someone else's expectations. Hope glimmered like sunlight breaking through a storm cloud, and Jake could sense it. From the snippets of conversations unraveling around him to the smiles of encouragement, he realized he was no longer alone on this journey. I've fallen hard, lost everything more than once, he continued, his words mingling with growing trust. But what I've realized is that we're all made of stories of pain and triumph. And sometimes, it takes tearing ourselves down to build something incredible in its place. Jake felt a swell of emotion, drowning in the collective understanding as he turned his gaze to the audience again. It scares me to share all of this, but I've learned that there's more power in vulnerability than in silence. Sam's presence felt like a lighthouse, guiding him through the fog of fear that lurked beneath the surface. Jake took another step, feeling the sweat on his brow, the warmth of late evening sunlight spilling through the hall. What if we stripped away the masks? What if we dared to stand here, side by side, and faced our truths? Wouldn't he that set us free? As once timid heads raised in admiration, Jake felt a shift in the air. It was as if every heart in that auditorium pulsed in rhythm with his own, a newfound strength weaving together a tapestry of shared experience. But as silence settled into possibility, another thought gripped at him. What came next? Would his truth inspire others to leap beside him, or would it expose wounds that might never heal? Jake held his breath, knowing that the real journey lay ahead. And as he stood on the precipice of this newfound connection, he couldn't help but wonder, what would they unleash together if they faced their truths? Would the tide shift, and could they rise from the depths of their struggles into the light of hope? As the last echoes of Jake's words faded, a buzz ignited in the crowd. Faces, once stoic and uncertain, transformed into vibrant canvases of resilience. Jake felt an electric charge pulse through the room, uniting them in a collective heartbeat of hope and courage. Yet, amidst the cheering and adrenaline, doubt still lurked at the corners of his mind. What if this connection faded as quickly as it had formed? Sam stepped forward, his voice calm and steady, slicing through Jake's thoughts. "We owe it to ourselves to be honest," he said, drawing everyone's gaze. "It's not just Jake's journey, it's ours too. Let us share our stories. Who's ready to talk?" A woman in her 50s, with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair, was the first to rise. "I spent my life working in a department store, always dreaming of opening my flower shop. But fear held me back." Her voice wavered but carried a weight that resonated. "I'm tired of being afraid." A ripple of applause rose, sparking others to stand. One by one, they shared their dreams, their hidden failures, their struggles with self-doubt. Stories poured from the crowd like a river, some soft and flowing, others turbulent and raging. Each revelation was a stepping stone, echoing the universal feeling of vulnerability. Jake's heart swelled. With every new voice, the air pulsated with the kind of raw honesty that cuts through despair like a knife. He felt their stories intertwining with his, creating a larger narrative that stretched beyond their individual lives. Each admission was a thread weaving into a powerful tapestry of connection. Then, a tall man with calloused hands and tear-brimmed eyes spoke. "I wanted to be a musician, but my father pushed me into construction work. I abandoned my guitar years ago." His voice cracked, but he stood firm, waiting for the collective breath of understanding to fill the silence. Jake stepped closer, drawn in by the vulnerability that flowed through the crowd. "It's never too late to pick it up again," he encouraged, heart racing with possibility. "You're not just defined by the paths others set for you." Nods of affirmation spread like wildfire, sparking a sense of fierce camaraderie. Behind him, Sam clapped a hand on his shoulder, silently urging him on. Encouraged, Jake continued, "Each moment we let fear hold us back has shaped us. Yes, but it's time to reclaim that power. Imagine standing here years down the line, looking back at this moment, the day we chose courage over complacency." A young student with wide, hopeful eyes raised her hand hesitantly. "What if we take those dreams and turn them into goals?" she asked, her uncertainty wrapped in excitement. "Like a plan to make them real?" Jake's heart leapt. "Exactly. Let us not just dream together. Let us act." The energy grew, spiraling into a fervor that seemed to lift everyone from their seats. The moment felt electric, and Jake could sense an undeniable shift, a pledge to not only dream together, but to forge paths toward those dreams. As conversations erupted around him, Jake allowed himself a moment to breathe and reflect, realizing the enormity of what they'd just started. The souls who had shied away from their past were finding strength in collective purpose, understanding that no one was really alone. But amidst the joy and newfound determination, an unsettling thought lingered in the back of Jake's mind. What if their courage was met with challenge? Would every budding dream survive the winds of life's obstacles? With a heart pounding in his chest, he prepared to embrace what lay ahead. The journey was going to be tough, no doubt about it. Melodies of hope surrounded him, but what did they truly mean for each individual's path forward? Jake looked around, feeling the weight of their dreams in the air. Time felt suspended in that room, and he knew they were all standing on the brink of something monumental. But as they took the first steps, territory both thrilling and daunting lay ahead. Could they sustain the momentum they had built together? Would this fragile hope turn solid under the pressure of reality? As the voices around him continued to intertwine, he couldn't shake the feeling that their real challenge was just beginning. What would unfold as they moved from words to action? Would they dare to risk it all and reach for their dreams? Or was that bridge too far? As conversations flowed, the energy in the room intensified. Each voice carried the weight of dreams, and the air crackled with anticipation. Jake felt an unexplainable sense of purpose as he scanned the crowd. Faces lit up with wonder, excitement, and hope. It was infectious. He suddenly noticed a woman, Sophia, with fiery red hair, pacing nervously at the back. "What's holding you back?" Jake called out, directing the question to her. Startled, she hesitated before stepping forward. "I've always wanted to start my own bakery," she admitted, her voice shaking slightly. "But my family thinks it's a silly dream. They want me to stay in the stable job I have now." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Their support was palpable. "What if we helped each other?" Sam suggested, his eyes sparkling with conviction. "Maybe we can all brainstorm ways to turn our ideas into action. Each of us could make a plan together." The room erupted into a flurry of ideas. People began to break off into smaller groups, animatedly discussing their dreams and struggles. Jake joined Sophia and a few others, feeling a new wave of excitement wash over him. He couldn't remember the last time he'd been this inspired, purely by the possibility of change. As they brainstormed, Jake could see the flickers of hope in Sophia's eyes. They jotted down ideas for her bakery, everything from flavors to business plans. It wasn't mere talk anymore. It took form in tangible ideas. "This is just the beginning," Jake said as they wrapped up their brainstorming session. "You can do this, Sophia." But the confidence she displayed swayed slightly. "What if I fail?" she whispered, the fear creeping back. "You might," Jake replied honestly. "But you'll learn. Growth comes through the challenges, right?" The group nodded, a unified understanding permeating the small circle. With every word spoken, they saw the fears diminish one by one, like shadows chased away by light. Meanwhile, a chorus of laughter erupted from another corner. Jake turned to see the tall man from before, now strumming a guitar that had magically appeared in the midst of the gathering. He played a few chords and the crowd erupted into cheers. There was something extraordinary in that moment. People singing and swaying, spirits lifting with every note. But then silence fell. Sophia shot a glance at the man, uncertainty painted across her face. "What if I can't even get people to like my cupcakes?" she murmured, gripping her notepad tighter. Jake knelt beside her. "If you bake with love and passion, they'll taste it. You just need to put yourself out there. You have to believe in your own magic first." The room was full of raw emotions from everybody present. It struck Jake that they weren't merely sharing dreams. They were building a safety net of support. However, as the night wore on and the laughter subsided, Jake's thoughts drifted back to the uncertainty that loomed ahead. He saw the doubts in their eyes start creeping back. Were they truly ready for what lay beyond this moment? Could they protect this fragile hope in the face of inevitable challenges? Jake took a deep breath, trying to push those worries down. He believed, if they could create a community right here, they could extend that strength into their lives outside this room. But with reality creeping ever closer, a gnawing anxiety clung to him like a heavy fog. As he looked around at the band of dreamers around him, he knew one thing for sure: they were deep in the thick of it now. But would they falter when the world tested them? And as an idea struck him, he couldn't help but wonder, what if the next step was the most terrifying yet? Would they walk forward together into the unknown? The music faded, and the energy in the room shifted. Jake took in the faces surrounding him, everyone still caught in the thrill of shared dreams. Yet the weight of reality began to settle over them like a thick blanket. He could see Sophia biting her lip, still gripped by her doubts. "Let us take a step back Everyone, Jake suggested, raising his palms to gather their attention. Let us talk about the obstacles we're all facing. He glanced at Sophia, who nodded, her eyes wide with hope yet clouded by fear. Knowing what stands in our way can help us chart a path forward. One man spoke up. I've always wanted to write a novel, but I struggle with self-doubt. What if nobody wants to read it? Writing is a journey, another woman chimed in. I've wanted to start a nonprofit, but I have no idea where to begin. And like a chain reaction, people began to voice their fears and uncertainties. As they shared, it became obvious these fears were universal. The crowd murmured in understanding, and Jake could feel the room pulsing with vulnerability. Each of us has faced something that makes us hesitate, Jake said, raising his voice to instill courage into their collective apprehension. But what if we flipped this around? Instead of seeing these fears as walls, let us view them as stepping stones. What if those very fears guide us? Sophia looked touched, a small smile breaking through her earlier trepidation. But how do we get past them? She pressed, her smile fading. Her fingers tapped nervously on the notepad. I can help you tackle your bakery dream. Someone called out from one of the other groups, excitement lacing their voice. Me too, shouted another. Let's have a cupcake tasting party here. The room lit up with laughter again, ideas ricocheting off one another. Jake could feel a palpable shift in energy. It was as if fear had become fuel for their collective spirit. As everyone dove back into brainstorming, Jake took a moment to step away, leaning against the wall. He closed his eyes, letting their voices wash over him. This was more than just dreams, it was a dance of hope and fear intertwined. A tapestry of vulnerability being woven right in front of him. But what if it all came crashing down? He shook off the thought. This was a community, and even if challenges awaited, they had each other. He opened his eyes and saw a group huddled around Sophia, maps of her bakery layout drawn on sheets of paper, sparks of creativity lighting their faces. Inside, hope ignited. Jake knew this was a night that transcended the ordinary. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed the tall man with the guitar again, still playing quietly in the background. There was a warmth in the way the music drifted, pulling people together in the spirit of unity. Suddenly, that fear clawing at Jake returned. What if music was their lifeline? What if it helped them face the looming unknown? He stepped back into the circle, energy building. Why don't we create a night of performances? Each of us could share our dreams in whatever way feels right to us. Art, music, storytelling, anything. The crowd erupted again, their enthusiasm rising. Yet Jake couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty gnawing at his insides. Would they be bold enough to bare their souls? Would they allow their voice to shine brightly before the world? As the chatter swirled around him, he realized this was just the beginning. Each new idea offered a glimpse of the possibilities ahead, but they would need courage to dive deeper. When it hit him, what if sharing their stories became their greatest test yet? Would they rise to meet it together, or would they let fear silence them one more time? The night unfolded like a tapestry woven with laughter, tears, and unshakable determination. Under the kaleidoscope of budding dreams and flickering hopes, Jake felt a sense of unity enveloping them. Each voice echoed with a sincerity that surged through the air, lifting spirits higher than the rafters of the auditorium. As the group prepared for their night of performances, excitement crackled like electricity. Jake could see it on the faces around him, the willingness to share, the vulnerability that comes with truth. But lurking beneath that excitement was the undeniable weight of reality. What would come next? How would they navigate the challenges that awaited them? Okay, everyone, Jake called, drawing their attention. We're not just here to perform. We're here to support each other, to show that our voices matter. He glanced at Sophia, whose spirit was awakening. Remember, this isn't just about the spotlight. It's about the connection we forge. The crowd erupted in applause, and Jake felt his heart swell. This was why they gathered, their dreams intertwined into a tapestry of strength and possibility. As they began to practice, music filled the room, mingling with laughter and chatter. Each individual had their own story, Yet they were all part of something greater, a community bound together by hope. Still, doubt gnawed at Jake as he observed them honing their axe. What if they faltered in front of an audience? What if the weight of their dreams became too heavy to carry? But then, a wave of mutual encouragement washed over him. The fears of failure were fading, replaced by a tangible belief in one another. Night fell and the stage was set. Lights flickered on, illuminating the eager faces of friends and family filling the seats. Jake stood backstage, the hum of excitement swirling like a gusting wind, and suddenly, it hit him. This was not just about risking their dreams. It was about celebrating one another's journeys. He stepped onto the stage, microphone in hand, heart pounding. Hey, everyone. We're here to share not just our dreams, but our vulnerabilities. Let us remind each other that we are capable of incredible things, and together, we'll find the strength to rise. The audience erupted in cheers, a wave of energy washing over him. As the first performer took the stage, Jake felt that familiar warmth in his heart. This was what they had come for, authenticity gleaming in the spotlight. Each performance blossomed songs filled with yearning, stories wrapped in the hope of new beginnings. Laughter and tears mingled in the air, a symphony of shared experience. And then there was Sophia. Her nerves were palpable, but Jake could see her resolve hardening. She stepped into the spotlight, the crowd falling silent, captivated by the courage she was mustering. I'm Sophia, and I dream of opening a bakery, she began, her voice steadying as she shared her journey of doubt and fear. But I'm learning that every sweet treat comes from a family recipe of persistence. Cheers erupted like fireworks, igniting a newfound confidence in Sophia. She spoke of her ambitions, her plans, her love for baking that made her heart soar. And in that moment, Jake realized their fears, once daunting shadows, had transformed into stepping stones. As the evening unfolded, the performances became a gravitational force, pulling them closer together. The man with the guitar strummed heartfelt chords, his voice echoing pain and hope. The crowd sway in unison, feeling the resonance of shared struggles transform into a collective celebration of dreams. But as the night wore on, anticipation fluttered in Jake's chest. He was slated to perform last, the weight of expectation heavy on his shoulders. What would he share? Would his truths resonate? Doubt clawed at his resolve, but deep within, a surge of courage bloomed. When it was finally his turn, Jake took a deep breath, stepping confidently into the glow of the spotlight. The faces in front of him anchored him, reflecting a kaleidoscope of stories shared that night. I'm Jake, a farm boy chasing dreams, he spoke, a smile curling on his lips. But it's more than just about me. Tonight is about all of us daring to step out of our shadows. Each word came alive as he recounted his journey, the struggles he faced, and how the flame of hope had ignited within him. Life will have its storms, trust me. I've seen them shake my world. But within those moments, we can rise. It's the support of loved ones that helps us turn fear into opportunity. The crowd erupted in applause, accepting his journey as their own. Jake's chest swelled with emotion as warmth spread throughout the room. He no longer stood alone. Vulnerability wasn't just a burden. It was the very thread that connected them. As the night wrapped up with laughter and joyful tears, a sense of fulfillment coursed through Jake's veins. Each person had ventured beyond the borders of doubt, stepping into the light of possibility together. And yet amid the laughter and applause, a realization anchored deep within him. The journey was just beginning. The world awaited their stories and dreams. He could sense it, flowing like a river, waiting for them to join. Jake stepped back as the lights dimmed, faces aglow with the hope of what lay ahead. As he left the stage, he felt a deep knowing together. They'd face the unknown. They would rise above challenges and embrace every stumble as part of their story. As he walked through the crowd, filled with laughter and chatter, he knew one thing for sure. They were no longer just dreamers. They were a community destined to write their futures together, armed with passion, resilience, and the shared belief that every dream, no matter how fragile, deserved to be chased. So, This is it, the final bow of a knight turned transformational. But remember, the real journey unfolds from this moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm because you need to support this journey. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending because your voice matters. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let's keep this movement alive.